Hi, I'm Suri, a therapist, a mom of four emotionally intense kids, and now a grandparent of nine. In this video, we're going to slow things way down and look at what actually happens inside of us when we get emotionally triggered. Because emotions don't just come out of nowhere, they follow a pattern. And when we can learn to recognize that pattern, we can start to change it. This skill is called emotion mapping, and it's the first step towards building real emotion regulation. So why bother mapping emotions? Well, most of us don't notice what's happening until we're already mid-yell, or we've walked away fuming, or we've said something we regret. But if we could understand the steps our emotions take from trigger to after effects, we can find places to intervene. We can choose a response instead of being swept up in a reaction. So let me walk you through how this works using a very real parenting moment. So this one I'll call the homework refusal. So just imagine that at 6:30 p.m., you ask your 9-year-old to start their homework for the third time. They groan, shove the paper away, and say, "This is stupid, I'm not doing it." That's the prompting event. Something happens and it catches your attention, and your emotional system immediately kicks in. Now let's walk through the rest of the emotion map. Vulnerability factors. You bring your whole day into that homework moment. You skipped lunch that day. You're still irritated about a frustrating work meeting. You've already been on all afternoon. And this same homework struggle happened yesterday. So your nervous system is primed, and you're more likely to explode than respond. Next is interpretation. Now your brain kicks in and it fills in the story. They're being disrespectful. They never listen. I bent over backwards for them, and this is what I get. The interpretation that you add gives meaning to the event, and that meaning fuels your emotional intensity. Next come biological changes and sensations, and within seconds, your body reacts. Your shoulders tense, your jaw tightens, your chest feels hot, your heart rate goes up, your breath gets shallow, and that's your nervous system preparing to fight or flee. And in kick your action urges, and you begin to feel the pull to yell, threaten a consequence, march over and force them to start, or say something you know you'll regret. And let's be honest, these urges are powerful. And unless we notice them, we tend to act on them. Next, expression and behaviors. So maybe you raise your voice, or you send them to their room, or you mutter something sharp under your breath, or you walk away slamming a cabinet on the way out. This is what they see, and it communicates your emotion, and it also reinforces it. And then we're left with the after effects. Later, even after the homework is done or not done, the emotion lingers. You're still tense. You're ruminating. Why is it always like that? Maybe you feel guilty about how you handled it, or maybe you start planning how to be stricter tomorrow. This is how one moment sets the tone for the rest of the evening or the rest of the week. Now let's map out another example. This one is about a teen who doesn't text back. Let's say you text your teenager, "Hey, when are you coming home?" and you get no response. An hour passes, still nothing. That's the prompting event. The moment you notice, that triggers everything that comes after. Now let's talk about vulnerability factors. You're running on a little sleep. Maybe you're still stung from a recent argument with your teen. Maybe she's been distant lately and you're not quite sure what's been going on. All of that makes this moment more emotionally vulnerable for you. Next, let's look at your interpretation. Your mind starts spinning. She's ignoring me. She's so disrespectful. She always does this. And just like that, you're flooded, not just by what's happening now, but by everything this moment reminds you of. And then your biological changes and sensations kick in. Your body follows. Your jaw clenches, your face feels hot, your shoulders tense, your breath becomes shallow. You feel that tight, buzzy edge of frustration and anxiety. And next comes the action urge. You want to send a sharp follow-up, threaten to take her phone, snap the moment she walks in. And maybe you say, "If you can't answer your phone, don't expect to go out again." These urges come fast and they feel very justified in the moment. Here's the expression and behavior, what you do. You text back sharply, or you pace the kitchen, or you give her a cold shoulder when she comes in, or you launch into a lecture before she can even take off her shoes. The interaction is already shaped by everything that happened in you before she even replied. And the after effects, what followed, you stay irritated for hours. Maybe your child gets defensive or withdraws. You might feel bad, but you're unsure how to fix it. Or even worse, You decide just to let it go, but resentment builds for next time. Now, why does this matter? Well, emotions don't just happen, they unfold. And when you understand how that happens, you can start to step in. You can notice the interpretation. You can acknowledge the vulnerability factors. You can regulate your body. You can pause the urges. You can soften your expression, and you can change the after effect. And this is the foundation of all emotion regulation. You won't catch it every time, but the more you practice mapping your emotions, the more empowered you'll feel in the moment. Now let's take a closer look at that teen doesn't text back emotion map. In the example we discussed, the interpretation that the mom has is she's ignoring me. She always does this. She's so disrespectful. Now, again, the prompting event was when you texted your teen, hey, when will you be home? And you see that it's been read, but you get no response for an hour. You're already vulnerable because you've had a long, exhausting day. You feel unappreciated or taken for granted lately. And there's a history of power struggles with this teen. Maybe your own parent modeled disrespect equals disobedience equals consequence mindset. And all of that makes you more emotionally reactive in that moment. Now, your interpretation, and this is really important. Here's the mom's interpretation. She's ignoring me on purpose. She's so rude. She never listens. She doesn't respect me at all. Her brain frames this as a power move or as a personal insult. And as a result, her jaw tightens, her heart rate spikes, her shoulders tense, chest feels hot, breath becomes shallow, and she's flooded with anger and indignation. And here's where she has a series of action urges: to fire off a furious text, to revoke privileges, to lecture her when she walks in the door, to prove a point about respect. And that's emotion mind preparing her to regain control or authority fast. So she sends a harsh follow-up. It's not that hard to answer a text. Don't expect any screen time when you get home. Notice that the mom's behaviors reinforce her internal story. I'm being disrespected and I need to respond with authority. Afterward, she spends time ruminating. She's always like this. Mom might feel angry longer than the moment calls for, and she feels guilty later, but too stuck to repair. And her teen might now be defensive or withdrawn, making it harder to connect to next time. This sets up the next interaction to begin from a tense and disconnected place. But let's take a look at exactly the same triggering situation with a different interpretation. So the prompting event is exactly the same. You text your teen and don't get a reply for over an hour. Vulnerability factors, well, you recently read about something awful happening to a teen. Your child was late once before and you were genuinely scared. You're running on a little sleep. Your own anxiety tends to spike when there's uncertainty or silence. And here's your interpretation. What if something happened? What if she's hurt or unsafe? And your brain shifts into threat detection mode. You don't see defiance, you see danger. And then the biological changes and sensations kick in. Stomach drops, your hands get clammy, your pulse starts to race, lump forms in your throat, your breath becomes shallower fast. It's a classic panic physiology. Your body is bracing for an emergency. And here's where the action urges take over. You feel the urge to call her repeatedly, check her location if you can track her phone, call all her friends, and spiral into worst case scenarios. Here, emotion mind is in protective mode, trying to eliminate uncertainty by any means necessary. Your expression and behavior is informed by your interpretation, your emotion, and your action urges. And so you call or text with urgency, I'm worried, please answer me. You might start to pace, cry, or snap at other people in the house. And when she finally replies, you might yell, but not out of anger, out of sheer relief and fear release. Now, again, the expression reinforces the panic. That was awful. I need to make sure that never happens again. But the after effects here are also different. Lingering anxiety even after she's home safe, guilt or shame over your panic-driven behavior, maybe over-monitoring the next time she goes out, and your teen might feel smothered or confused even if they weren't in any real danger. And that can lead to parent-child tension, not because of anger, but because of unprocessed fear. In the next video, we're going to look at one of the most powerful DBT skills for shifting an emotional spiral, and it's called check the facts. Because sometimes the emotion fits the facts and sometimes it doesn't. And when we act based on what we feel or interpret instead of what's actually happening, we get stuck in patterns that don't serve us or our kids well. The check the facts skill helps us slow down, step back, and find a wise-minded way through. You're doing really hard and meaningful work just by learning this stuff. Keep going. I'll see you in the next video.